Good evening and welcome to a Monday night Magpie Circle live. Still unbeaten, seven games now, 6 wins, held to a draw by Bromley on Saturday. Your thoughts and views on that. And now we keep on the road to Shrewsbury. We are all heading on Tuesday evening. Speaking with the club today, expecting about 1,000 fans to make the journey across to Shrewsbury. So plenty of us will be there. Hopefully there'll be a bit more space and a bit more room for us all in Shrewsbury. It's quite a nice little new build ground, isn't it? All-seater. We're all a bit crammed in on Saturday in the little standing enclosure at Bromley. Your thoughts and views on that. Martin Patterson has dropped the clearest indication yet today. It is pre-game press conference that changers in the plural will be made on Tuesday evening as Notts continue this hectic spell of fixtures. Of course, no Scott Robertson. He serves a one-match suspension for the 2 yellow cards in the red that he got on Saturday. Bit harshly done by there was Scott Robertson. Yes, we know Mansfield have drawn Arsenal in the FA Cup. Oh, for a cup run. I can remember decades ago when we used to have a cup run or two. But fair play to Nigel Clough. Stell and I were talking a bit before the show. He's had some cup runs in the FA Cup down the years at Sheffield United, at Burton. Congratulations to them, and they'll make some money to go into the Radford's coffers. All the best on that one. What else have we got on the show tonight? Well, obviously, thank you to our official partners, JH Accountants, Trent Navigation, Big Shed, and Over the Road. Lots of messages already coming in. We'll read those very shortly. Stell, after 6 consecutive victories, Martin Patterson seemed a bit aggrieved not to have got the 3 points in the cold light of day, Monday evening. Okay with that on Saturday?
Yeah, more than okay with it, really. I mean, performance levels, I thought was superb. I thought we were the better team over the 90-odd minutes. I've listened to both managers post-match. Both managers aggrieved at the official.
Yeah.
I'm going to say, well, officials, but mainly the referee. But if I'm honest, I don't think Andy Woodman's got too much to complain about. You can complain maybe about Jodie's penalty, and there still isn't a great angle for that. But I think initial contact was outside the box. Whether the contact then carried on inside the box, don't know. We haven't seen it. Well, I certainly haven't seen a great angle. The angle that we've seen on like the YouTube highlights that the club put out is almost exactly the same angle we got. The camera was literally 5 yards to the right of us in the stand, so it's exactly the same angle. We couldn't tell on Saturday, but again, there were 2 or 3 decisions that we couldn't tell about. Scott Robertson's first booking, by all, listening to Martin, there was clear contact and should have been a penalty. So, plenty for the managers to get, or head coaches to get irate about. But in the cold light of day, for me, I thought, first 20, 25 minutes, I thought Bromley asked us questions, put the ball in the box, as we expected them to. They sort of got the goal, didn't they? A little bit fortuitously. But I thought we defended the box really well in general. Can't remember Belshaw having to make a save, really, of any note. I know they put a looping header that was sort of going towards goal. It might not have crept over the line on the highlights, but can't remember him having a save to make. And I know their keeper, Grant Smith, he had to make a couple of smart saves from Jodie. I thought Jodie was our main threat at the weekend. I thought he played really well, even in the first half. The only bit I was saying on the radio was I thought in the first half we defended the box pretty well, but I thought we were just a little bit passive going forward. Jodie, perhaps the exception. I felt if we really believed in the first half, then I think we could have caused them problems. We had a couple of half openings where a little bit of a sloppy touch or just a little bit awkward touch. It didn't come to anything. But in the second half, we came out with more belief, more purpose, and really created 2 or 3 decent openings. Didn't make the most of them, truth be told. But I thought we were the better team. I thought we were the most likely team to win the game. And I thought if anybody had a grievance about not taking all 3 points, it would have been us. But I think overall, you'd say a point apiece is probably a fair enough reflection on the game, and not to be sniffed at as well against a team that's not been beaten at home this season in the league.
Yeah, only unbeaten team left in the EFL or the Premier League as a result of Sunderland losing the previous week. To put that point into context, messages from the flock. What are they all thinking? Martin Blaney first on at 10-2 this afternoon. Higher chaps, a hard-earned point at the weekend and still unbeaten. I think we would have taken that before a ball was kicked. Stephen Newton, afternoon all. Looks like there will be plenty of us there tomorrow night. Let's roar the pies to victory. Yeah, best part of 1,000 tickets sold, and I'm not sure whether it's been confirmed or not. Normally at Shrewsbury, you can get a ticket on the night. Plenty of spare capacity throughout the ground at Shrewsbury's stadium. Debbie Caton, hello. I work split shifts Monday to Thursday, but hoping to be able to catch the last 10 minutes of the show tonight. If not, have a great time at Shrewsbury. I will be listening. Magpie 1862. Someone told me some of the Bromley fans are people that have had problems at Millwall. Might explain some of the behaviour from them at the end. Nigel Bosworth, a good draw. Come on, you pies, Dave Badder. At present, we have a 100% record against those teams either relegated or promoted to League Two. We're not lost to one, I don't think, have we? Because obviously we're not got 100% record against Bromley. Hopefully that can continue tomorrow. Colin Metcalf, we are at the stage where my opinions are put on hold. The lads are giving everything for the badge, so we need to back them to the end. It's all about results now, so let's roar them on to the finishing line. Ian Cooksey, after watching the FA Cup tie yesterday, I didn't watch it. I've seen the photos. I'm glad we haven't got to play Grimsby away at Blundell Park. That pitch will now be knackered for the rest of the season and will possibly upset any promotion hopes Grimsby had. Never be in doubt, Ian or the flock. If a game is on the telly and there's some money in it, and you think you've got a better chance against the opposition, you will somehow get the game played. Funny, never get a game on against us, do they, with the Frost? But crikey, they made sure they got that one on yesterday. I bet the groundsman's got a tough old few days. Jurgen Pie. Now this. Jurgen sent me another message. I'll read this one first. The second one is a belter, if true, which I suspect it is. Another tough game, says Jurgen, tomorrow night. Wonder if Harold will start. Need Jatta back as Dennis struggled as a lone striker. We'll pick that up in a moment with Stell in terms of the challenges of being a lone striker. Look, not to be held to anything, I am hearing that Alassania is not coming back imminently. Now, read that as you will, but as I understand it, he's not likely to be involved in either of the two next games. But as I say, don't get carried away and start, shouting from the rooftops. But I don't think he's going to be returning imminently. Balin Ball, evening all. Dennis scoring an own goal meant Michael Cheek didn't score. Mark Williams, Ireland Pie, evening all. Great point on Saturday. Could have been all three, but would have took a point before the game. We stood up to Bromley's physical Route 1 game very well. Such fight the lads are showing week in and week out. I will also be over for the Grimsby game and looking forward to it and hopefully catching you guys in the navigation before the match, hopefully with another 6 points in the bin. Evening from Richard Elvian, David Dawes, some poor calls from the man that some called a referee. Jurgen pointing out that it's Stags Arsenal in the cup. Now, if this is true, Jurgen, this is now your claim to fame. A member of our flock, goes to every game, does Jurgen Stell, up Ollerton Way. I worked with Darren Drysdale while stationed in the RAF. We were both corporals at the time, many years ago. Corporal Drysdale. Don't panic.
Wow.
Don't panic. All of that. Robert Minister. Morning stroke evening all from Australia. Fantastic point at the weekend. I really thought we might have seen AJ playing last weekend. Do we have any updates on his injury? I think I've inadvertently just answered that one. Who comes in tomorrow night for Robbo? Question mark. Royston asks, would you rest Dennis tomorrow night? Jurgen Pye says, I'd start Lee Undlove. Ian Cooksey, I'm not sure personally we've got the personnel to rest Matty entirely unless Jatta is fit. And even then, it's a risk in my opinion. Jurgen adds, we put some decent crosses, principally from Jody Jones in Saturday. No one managed to get on the end of them. Rosemary Mans, evening everyone. Don't know why. Feeling a bit nervous of being in the playoff places, not the automatics. Hope we don't drop off the cliff like last season. Hope injuries to our players are mending. As we discussed on Sunday's show, we did say this was going to happen. Forest versus Fulham, Ian Cooksey gleefully tells us, has been moved to the Sunday. It's a small win over Forest. We don't get many these days, Ian. Have been moved to the Sunday, whether they are in Europe or not. That is because Sky have actually done us a favour by choosing a 12:30 kickoff on Saturday on a weekend when Notts and Forest were both scheduled to have been playing on the same Saturday and kicking off at 3. Forest have now moved back 24 hours for their game with Fulham. Notts against Chesterfield is on a Saturday, but at an earlier kick-off time. Okay, that's got through quite a batch of them. Excuse me, a lot more to get through. Looking at the tables now, Stel, we're all starting to look at opposition and who the opposition playing. It might not have started in earnest yet. Normally it's like the last 10 games, isn't it, when you really get into a countdown, so to speak. But it does appear that Notts and most, if not all, most of the other teams are kind of starting to click into form and winning 2, 3, 4 games on the bounce now.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that them, the cream is sort of rising to the top, as often happens over a league season, doesn't it? Now is a good time to hit form. As we know, being not supported, 6 wins out of the last 7, unbeaten in 7, 19 points out of 21 possible. We need to keep it going, of course, but, you've seen where that's taken us in the table. And again, it's still tight because other clubs are in good form. Other teams sort of at the top, predominantly top 7 or 8, all seem to be in decent form. So, look, there'll be twists and turns. There'll be teams that drop away. There'll be teams that come strong, that maybe we haven't looked at. But it is sort of taking shape. But every week now, or every set of fixtures, you imagine potentially there's maybe going to be a team that just finds themselves that bit further away, and it whittles down from where we've been saying all season. It could be 13, 14, 15 teams looking at playoffs or above, where gradually now I think you'll get sort of one fall away a week, pretty much because of the results that happen. But there's going to be twists and turns. There's going to be upsets. Who saw Shrewsbury beating Swindon at the weekend? So Gavin Cowan, former teammate of mine, who's manager at Brackley when we played him early on in the season, knocked us out of the cup. He's come in, made a bit of a difference. 2 wins out of 4, I think 2 wins a draw out of 4 games. So, it's not an easy game. You look at it at the league table, league positions, and say, well, you'd fancy Notts. But again, this is professional football. No game is a given. You have to give everything you have against top team, bottom team, anybody else in between. So, and that's the message Martin will say straight after the game. He was talking about Tuesday, after he finished on the referee. But that is the focus. That is it. We've achieved nothing. We've achieved nothing so far, nor of Bromley, nor of any of the teams. So you've got to keep going. As we saw last season, as somebody mentioned, we did fall off the cliff a little bit last season. So we've got to make sure the same doesn't happen this year. So while ever we're on a good run, and it's a really good run, we've got to keep it going.
Indeed. Jurgen was just giving me more biographical details on Darren Drysdale. Anyway, you caught me on the hop there. Let's just get a few more messages coming in. Good point or great point on Saturday, says Paul Cuthbert. If Alessandro is not back, need to start Undlove. Dennis was not great on Saturday, not really a lone striker type of player. Evening from Paul Huskerson. Kay says evening as well. Desperately need Jatta back as soon as possible. We may have to wait a little while, Kay. Ian Haywood, evening all. Don't know what all the fuss was about with Bromley. We should have won that game straight out of Martin Patterson's post-match press conference. Those comments, Ian. Tim Watchorn, evening. Without doubt, Jodie's best game this season. Tomorrow will require a repeat team performance to secure 3 points. Paul Cuthbert, Iapenda will likely be needed deeper tomorrow, which is a shame as he presses brilliantly. Hopefully more a Hall type game tomorrow. The ball may be on the grass a little more. Jurgen Pye, Harold to start maybe, and Hinchy on the bench. Lippy Jane, I just can't make these more all these southern away games, especially on a Tuesday night. But well done, Pies, that will be going. Give them a cheer from me. Bale Ball, Scott Robertson should have been took off before being sent off. Could see it coming a mile away, he says. Jurgen Pye, Bromley only had one shot on target to our 3. Rosemary Mans, yes, Jody is coming good. Will definitely be a key player in the rest of our season. His quality is undeniable. Adam Kent, with our mini midfield crisis, could we see a 4-4-2? We've asked that question 9,427 times this season, Adam, and it's been the same answer every time. So I'm not expecting it tomorrow. Thought McDonald looked as good as ever when he came on. What a wonderful last-ditch challenge, by the way. But can't drop Platt or Bedo. Yeah, I thought Platt. There's a good combination in it. Platt and Bedo. I thought Matty Platt just behind Jody Jones when it came to best 2 players on the pitch on Saturday. Richard Elvian, unsure if Tangen, aka Harold, is up to speed yet to be able to start. JJ Aviation, evening Paul and Stell. Missing Robbo for tomorrow will make the game with Shrewsbury a little more difficult. They demolished Swindon, so let's see how we fare. John Parr, evening all. Good point Saturday. Jody played out of his skin. Tomorrow night might be a different challenge, but Field could be just as tough. Essie Kent, as long as they don't have the same ref as we did on Saturday, we're in with a chance. Even Martin Patterson made a comment about the referee, which is unlike him. Dale Pikett, Paul, evening all. Paul, me and the lads have had a whip round yesterday for a bucket for Mr. Woodman for all the tears in his post-match interview. Linda Lou, I thought it was bad at Bromley for us away fans. Why couldn't they give us a proper space? Aggressive security when entering the ground. Ian McQuillan, dodgy ref, but at least he gave us a penalty and not a free kick. Yeah. Yeah. See, seems to be that Darren Drysdale unites everybody somehow or other. Okay, Stel. We know there's got to be one change tomorrow. No Scott Robertson. We're assuming Ollie Norburn. You know, he's a warrior. He will be one of those spots. What do you do in midfield tomorrow?
Yeah, I mean, I must admit, my sort of thoughts would be echoing a lot of what people have said, really. I imagine possibly Tommy Orpenda drops deeper. And I wouldn't be surprised if Leon Love starts as that lone striker.
Right.
I don't think to rest Matty Dennis. I'm not sure Matty Dennis needs a rest. I just think he might drop into one of the number 10 positions.
Yeah.
And I would say either Connor Grant or or Harold Tangen, see whether he wants to start him. I don't know. I don't see Tyrese Hall starting. I just don't think in recent games he's done enough. Been withdrawn a couple of times at half time. Only came on late in the game at the weekend. So I just think at the minute, I think Martin's maybe got trust in one or two others before that. So I think for me, assuming Norburn's fit, assuming Matt Palmer isn't fit, I would be probably looking at dropping your Pender a little bit deeper in place of Scott Robertson, obviously the enforced change. And then I think I'd probably play Unlove from the start, drop Matty Dennis in behind alongside Connor Grant, probably would be my way. But again, that depends on knocks, niggles, any fitness concerns, things like that. And still have Tangen on the bench and Tyrese Hall on the bench and options there.
So are you saying then, Stella, as a striker, poacher, goal scorer, top 10 Notts County's all-time list, Matty Dennis's goal scoring record is phenomenal. And if you look at minutes played per goal, he's got to be very, very, I think he was top earlier in the season. Bromley have a not dissimilar arrangement with Kabamba when he normally comes off the bench. I think he's got 10 or 11. But there is a debate, I think, that people have as to whether naturally he's a leader of a line when you're only playing one up front. And it must be one of the hardest things to do in League Two football against a defence like Bromley, to be a lone striker, I would have thought. But from what you're saying there, you possibly think you get more collectively from having Dennis as a 10 or whatever you want to call it, and Leon Love is more suited to that central striking role.
Look, I think Matty Dennis can do that forward role. Yeah. I just don't think he didn't get much change on Saturday, did he? Out of the two big centre halves. Yeah, of course it is. Of course it is. And a lot when you play that central striker on your own, a lot of it comes down to the balls into. You've got to have service into your feet. When you're playing against Land of the Giants, if you're Matty Dennis conceding 3 or 4 inches to get into both centre halves, you're going to need better service. But I'd like to have seen him just try and stretch them a little bit more, run the channels a little bit more, which maybe isn't necessarily the way that we want to play. When you play against big lads, they always want to face the play. They always want to come towards the ball, be able to see you and the ball. So you've got to try and pull on the shoulder or just pull into spaces where they don't want to go and don't like going. I thought for us to get anything out of the game Saturday, he would have to have a big game, to be honest. He would be a key. As it turned out, he didn't really play a key part in the game, but we got something out of the game anyway. So, again, another case of me being wrong, obviously. But I just think away from home, and it comes down to, look, they'll have more information on Shrewsbury than I have. But they play a back three, since Gav Cowan's gone in, plays how he played at Brackley. He changed it because Michael Appleton had them in a 4, but he's played a back 3-4, sort of 1-2. I just think Leon Love is better at retaining possession of the ball. He's big. Well, he's not so big, is he? But he's strong, physical. Yeah. Yes, he's mobile as well. But I think he can just retain and allow. But what that does is free up Matty Dennis a little bit to get in them spaces. Not necessarily have to stretch teams. He can come and get the ball and show his good footwork and his eye for a goal. We've seen him score goals from distance, a few times this season, so he can score all sorts of goals. I'm not saying Matty Dennis can't play as that lone striker. I'm just saying away from home might be now might be the time to go, do you know what, Leon Love, we brought you in. I think this Shrewsbury game might be ideal. We'll get the ball into you. We'll get Connor Grant or Tyrese Hall or Matty Dennis or Harold Tangen, whoever it is, running off you. We'll get a solid base in midfield with your Pender and Norburn. We'll get Nick Sarula down one side, Jody down the other. And that's how we're going to attack them with both flanks as usual, but also with a solid centre forward who can play with his back to goal, but can also stretch a team when need be. And you use the legs of Connor Grant and Matty Dennis to exploit their spaces that creates, whether it's them running in behind or whatever, but just to move the opposition about a bit. So look, there's options. There are options now within the squad. Obviously, Jatta not being fit, or we're assuming he's not going to be fit and available for selection, limits that a little bit. But you could play the two of them. You could go with two up top and play one in behind if you wanted to. If you thought that was the best way to sort of mess with Shrewsbury lineup and the strengths that they've got defensively. So look, there's more than one way to do it, and we've got good players and as we've mentioned before, good competition for places. But I have a sneaking feeling that might be the way. It certainly might be the way I'd go tomorrow night. We'll see whether Martin thinks similarly or not. And obviously, again, it comes down to, I say, always down to injuries, knocks, and fitness.
Indeed. Richard Elvian confirms lots of tickets on the night for us. Capacity in the away end is 1,600. We've sold about 900. Excuse me, so far. Pash says, looking forward to Shrewsbury away. After that, it's just Cambridge away, and I've done every ground in League 2. Need to go up so we can do some new grounds. Yeah, a lot of Notts fans now, I think, are about to or have completed the set of League 2. Yeah, I mean, I think you want the all-time record holder for a number of watching Notts on away grounds. I've not hit 200 yet, but I'm away behind. Mr. Atkinson, Acco's coaches. I think he's something like 230, something like that, which is phenomenal, isn't it? That is different grounds watching Notts away. I mean, that's just absolutely phenomenal. Whoops. Alex Shacklock, King Harold to reign tomorrow, subject to him avoiding arrows. Yeah, that was the last time, wasn't it? Let him attack the space later on. A.D. Clark, evening all, a great performance and point. Should be able to appeal Robbo booking for diving. His ban will be a big loss. Yellows can't be appealed. It's one of them rules, as Ian Cooksey has just instantly pointed out. Mr. Drysdale is still in the RAF and serving at a base in Waddington in Lincolnshire, according to Jurgen. Yes, my mistake. Teams promoted last season were Barnet and Oldham, not Bromley. My apologies. Yes, we do have a 100% record, which is pretty good. Most importantly, we've got a good record against all the teams in the top 6 or 7 so far this season. Only live in Telford, says Ian Simpson, so less than half an hour to get to Shrewsbury. Good test for both teams tomorrow night, says Dale Pikett. Their new manager Bounce and does 1 defeat in the last 10 away games. What else have we got coming down here? John Parr is not expecting Jody to play tomorrow night, given his injury record. Martin was fairly economic again with injuries and that sort of thing. Doesn't seem to comment too much on them now, so we'll have to wait till 75 minutes before kickoff. Senga Smith, play Ness up front. He'd do a job. Gazali is saying, looking like 3 from 5 at the top. Nothing has shown me that we can't complete automatics, unlike in previous seasons. Looking forward to Pato finally fist pumping the cop when we get promoted automatically. Paul Cuthbert says that Mr. Drysdale was the ref when I was privileged to play the last post. That would have been our remembrance game, presumably, at the Cambridge game. Seemed a very pleasant bloke off the pitch. Dale Pikett, I think we only have 2 of the top 7 to play, and teams around us have 4 or 5 games against the other promotion hopefuls. Ian Cooksey, I think it will be us, MK Dons, plus 1 other, in my opinion. Pash says, I expect Iapenda to drop in for Robbo, although he's been much more effective in the 10 and linking the play for me. Start the Norwegian. Andy Esom didn't quite get my birthday wish of a win on Saturday, but a point away is a good point. New ground for me, and another first when the sat-nav took us for a ride on the Woolwich car ferry. Oh, dear me. AD Clark looking forward to seeing a Neuro. Just hope it's not another Jarvis situation. Yeah, we saw him literally, 48 hours after he signed, blew a gasket from his sprinting up and down the line. We've not seen him since. Gresham Maxwell, I'm under no illusion that Pato will select the right team for our game. He hasn't got many decisions wrong with team selection and with the timely substitutions when needed. Kind of looking at where we are overall picture at top of the table still. One thing I did notice, we've spoken about this before. Tried and trusted managers with promotions under their belt have kind of dominated the last 2 seasons of automatics. And if you look, I think Martin is the only head coach in something like the top 6 that hasn't got a promotion. Now, clearly, we're all looking forward to him sorting that out come May. But it is interesting that virtually all of these teams at the top have kind of got fairly extensively experienced managers with promotions under their belts.
Yeah, but I think you've got to look at as well at the other side of that is that if you've got a good CV with promotions on your belt, chances are you get a good team to manage.
Yeah,
a decent team in a decent division. So the better jobs are reserved for managers who've got success because people want success, don't they? There's plenty of teams, as we say, competing for it. So look, there's some good experienced managers there with good CVs. There are managers there that have had seasons where they've not succeeded, as in everything. So, and everybody has to start somewhere. Like I say, I will like everybody else. I remember saying when Martin was appointed, it was underwhelming as an announcement because of his previous CV as a manager was certainly not extensive, was it? But you judge a book by its cover. You use the evidence of your eyes. And I think he's done absolutely superbly. And I don't think there'd be any Notts fans, including all those that said it was, that actually said it was the wrong appointment, or if anybody did say that. But I think everybody will universally go, no, they've got it right. It looks like a brilliant appointment. I think I speak to quite a few people on match days and around as we do, and the Jim O'Brien night last week. And I think universally, people seem to have come to the opinion that he's getting the absolute most out of the group of players that he's got, out of the squad that he's got. And hopefully, we're picking up and that'll take us to automatic and who knows, maybe even the title, which is absolutely what they should be shooting for, and they will be, but they'll be taking it a game at a time, the old cliche. But I think he's done superbly well. He's won everybody round, but as we know, they've not achieved anything yet. So that could go the other way. Of course it can. Opinions can always change. Not that in this modern world, many people do change opinions sometimes, but opinions should change based on the evidence of what we're given. Data, stats, whatever we're seeing. So, like I say, as we sat here now, I think he's been fantastic. I think he's brought, we were sort of saying about it, weren't we, last Thursday, he's brought that belief, a bit of steel, but he's driving standards, I think, and that's the bit that's pushing them on, and they're delivering. And credit to the players as well. It's never always one person achieves it all. It's everybody playing their part. But I think the players have took it on board. I think they've got a competitive squad. Competition for places. Yes, we'd all still like to see it improved when the chance arises, but I think they're getting pretty close to the maximum out of them. And like I say, hopefully there's still more to give in the 15 games remaining.
Yeah, and certainly to echo the point that you make, Stel, about the job that Martin's done, and the point I was kind of trying to make there with the experienced managers is that Martin has done brilliantly well to have Notts, and I know we're one of the biggest clubs in League Two, but I think he's done brilliantly well to have us in and around where we have been for 3-4 months now. He is up against other managers that have got more experience, stayed the course before, because this obviously is new for Martin as well in terms of being in this promotion race. And, it's like riding a racehorse, isn't it? Jockeying for position when you got into the last few furlongs and all the rest of it. I think he's done incredibly well. I think we've got a brilliant chance, but I do think there's an awful lot more work needs to be done, because I do now think 3-4 teams will go on decent runs. We've often spoke about winning. There's nothing special in this league. They win one, lose one, win two, lose one. I think you're starting to see teams put really strong runs together. And when you think we've won 6 and drawn 1 of our last 7, and we're still not in the top 3.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's competitive at the top of the table. It's always going to be. You're going to need to win, more than you don't. To obviously stay up there. To even stay there in the race. So it's always competitive. And like I said, this is it. Everybody can see it coming down the finish line, if you like. Now, 15 games to go. You don't want to start suffering injuries. You don't want too many suspensions. We know we've got Scott Robertson for 1 game, but you don't want too many of that. You need to be in form. You need to be playing well. But aside from what, you need to be getting results. As everyone will say, the performance is a secondary. Really, it's always about results. But I would echo that all throughout the season. But you want that performance level. And I think the credit for Martin, for me, is that, certainly from my own personal perspective, the biggest criticism I've had of Notts teams over the last 4 or 5 years, and we've been winning predominantly, haven't we? I know, I say National League is National League, isn't it? It's non-league, but we've been winning. But I've still at times been critical, saying, do you know what, we're a bit nice. And I was always saying that with a view to maybe when we're back in the league, knowing how gritty it can be, how dogged you need to be, how you need to be ready from a top of the table clash on a Saturday to away from home to a dogged, scrapping, rejuvenated team down the lower middle half of the table in Shrewsbury on the Tuesday, and then back at home for another tough task on the Saturday. That's what league football's about, when there's no real let up. In the National League, I thought, there were some games where, of course, they're competitive. They're not easy, of course. But when you're Notts, with the abundance of riches that we've got and had, there are some easier games against part-time teams. There's none of that in the Football League. None of that. Everyone's professional. Everyone's got the same sort of tools at their disposal, if you like, in terms of training facilities, data, what have you. They're all fit. They're all strong. They've all got ways of playing and different ways of playing. And you have to manage all of that. And I think Martin has come in and added, like I say, I can't find a better word than a bit of steel in the team to go, do you know what? We don't have to be pretty to win games, but we do play some pretty football, regularly. But we can roll our sleeves up and dig in, and almost at times, and I don't mean this, and I don't mean certainly, I mean in a bad way. It's a positive, almost throwback football at times, when it becomes a bit League Two, when we're playing against Bromley and they're launching balls into the box and they're big and physical, and other games as well. We stay in games. We're not easy. I cannot get out of my head the second leg at Wimbledon last season in the playoffs, how we went out with a whimper. Yes, we had suspensions. Yes, we were maybe bare bones a little bit, but we went out with a whimper. I don't see Martin Patterson's team going out with a whimper in any game. And that's the biggest compliment I can give him.
Indeed. James Cannon says, Matty Dennis is very underrated by many Notts fans, works so hard off the ball. I'd stick with the same team, with Aya Pender playing deeper and Tangen in the starting 11. Jurgen Pye says, I don't see why Harold isn't ready to start. He played the whole second half against a physical Barrow. Jonathan Hammocks is keen to come on to the show to talk about the challenges that he's faced in his life and talk about both mental health and being in a wheelchair. We'll happily get that sorted at some point in the future, Jonathan. Robert Minister, nice portmanteau. I was trying to work what that phrase was for blending together.
Yeah.
Plateau, plat and better. There you go. Well done, Pash, on doing every League Two ground, says Rosemary Mans. Ian Cooksey, we're still talking about Darren Drysdale. Let's give him a rest now. Hopefully we ain't got him for the rest of the season. More. I hope Darren Drysdale is not listening from the RAF mess at officers messing linkage to this. James Cannon, Dennis is without doubt a more superior front man and harder worker than Jatta. There's a slightly alternative viewpoint. Evening from John Parnham. James doesn't seem to like Jatta much. Anyway, I think we're a better team when we've got Alessandro around. For my own two penneth, I will be happy if we can beat Shrewsbury and then beat Tranmere, sent Paul Sills. Hey, wouldn't we all? Wouldn't we all? Here's another name that's not been mentioned. Andy Eason. I would bring young forward Harrison Iwunzi into the fold for the next game or two, particularly if both Dennis and Undlove start. We'll have no striker option from the bench. There's an interesting point, Andy. Alex Shacklock. Oh, yeah, you had a little stint at Shrewsbury, didn't you?
Yeah, a very forgettable stint. Another one of my forgettable stints. But like I say, I was there. Gavin Cowan, who's the manager there, he was teammate of mine for that season. We had a young Joe Hart in goal, and Dave Edwards, who's the assistant manager, Welsh international. He was there as well. Young lad, good player.
Had they moved to the new ground then, or was it the old one?
No. It was the old Gay Meadow. No, it was the old Gay Meadow.
They didn't bundle you in the boat, did they? They had a little boat, didn't they? When the ball would go in the river around the back of the stand. It's true, isn't it? They actually had a guy in a boat that would collect the balls when they got whacked.
They did years ago. I don't know whether he was there when I was there, and with my shooting, he might well have been needed. But is he the one that you come up with a goal? Somebody came up with that word, a portmanteau. Was he in a coracle? Was that the type of boat he was actually in? There you go. You see, so I remember that from yesteryear. But obviously, I was inside the ground most of the time when I was playing, so I don't know what was going on outside on the river. But yeah, I don't know whether he was still there or not. But I do remember that from yesteryear. Yeah,
I remember I was only a kid. Knox played Shrewsbury, who had been in the 70s. Brian Stubbs, legendary defender, he could kick it. And it was in folklore, and I can't remember all the individual instances where he knew there was a river, and I think we were winning, so he kept hoofing the ball over this stand into the river. And this bloke in the coracles going 10 to the dozen, fetching about 8 balls out the river because we were winning 1-0 or something. So just kept oofing it over the stand into the river. And in them days, they didn't have like 10 balls in a sack. Do you know what I mean? They only had about 2. So you'd have this like long pause if you'd not got the other ball back, almost like a Sunday morning. You know, you've only got 2 match balls. Someone wellies it over a fence. And then if the other one goes over the fence, what do? You know? Shrewsbury. Always remember that. That. Right. Anyway, I digress. Gazzalee. Did anyone notice? I didn't. Sligo thrashed 4-0 with Traore getting a 4.8 out of 10 rating. To be fair, any striker that's on the end of a 4-0 beating ain't necessarily going to be getting good ratings. On the basis he probably didn't see a lot of the ball, Gaza. Rosemary Mans, I agree with Greza. Pato's timing for lineups and substitution is spot on. Greza Maxwell, Macaulay Langstaff looked chuffed after scoring at the weekend. Yeah, he got a late winner for Millwall, didn't he? Who are right on fire. Jurgen Pye's asking, and I think you may be right, Jurgen, is Iwunzi on loan at Kettering? Which would kind of rule him out. Foot Mob site is obviously a tad more generous to Mia Traore. According to Jurgen Pye, he was given a 5.7 on there. It's amazing what statistical nonsense you can get off internet these days, isn't it? Oh dear. Dale Piker, yes, the wheelbarrow song started at Shrewsbury away on a Tuesday night game. Yes, that one's in folklore. I was so pleased for Macca too, says Debbie Caton. Kay, I almost forgot about Jaden Luca. We could definitely do with him back fit. I think again it's a little way off. Yeah, I think it's a little way off. All right. So Shrewsbury. I'm going to give an alternative view, Stel. Down at the bottom, struggling right on the edge. They're now something like, as a result of that win on Saturday, I think there's something like 7 points clear. I just wonder psychologically, and I know you'll say it'll never happen with a footballer, they've got a bit of a gap now. That's probably the largest gap they've had from the bottom two all season. Because if you remember when they came down here with Michael Appleton, they'd had a terrible start, hadn't they? And then did we beat them 5 in midweek?
4-1. I didn't do the game. I was away, but I do remember saying that
you couldn't have been away on another holiday, Stel. I refuse to accept you had another mid-season break.
I might have been.
You're having a mid-season.
I might have been refreshing my batteries. Yeah, but I do remember the reports saying that Notts weren't great that night either and won 4-1. So, yeah, but I think, like I say, this is going to be a different Shrewsbury team, different manager, just in position. What's he been there, about 3 weeks, maybe? You know, as I say, he's changed the formation. They've got a decent-sized squad there of players there. I look at them earlier today, and there's some players there that you maybe forget about. Yeah, absolutely, yeah. Well, I think Appleton was allowed to bring in 5 or 6 players in January before he got the sack. So yeah, they've brought players in. So again, it might be a case of for Gav to try and identify who his best players are, what his best team is. But as I say, he's changed the shape. Going on the reports I'm reading, he's gone to a back 3, which is exactly how he had his Brackley team lined up, a 3-4-1-2 formation. We know what happened there. So let's hope Lightning can't strike twice in a season. But it'll be a tough game because they'll have a bit of renewed belief. Yes, you're right. There's 7 points clear, aren't they? The bottom 2, but they won't be taking their foot off the pedal thinking, oh, we've done it. They will be wanting to impress the new manager because obviously there's contracts and things to play for at the end of the season. So, never mind starting shirts, there's livelihoods to be played for. So, like I say, this is the time when I like teams that can come good can come from anywhere in the table. And you might have a team like Shrewsbury, and I'm not saying going to make a late run for the playoffs or anything like that, but I'm going to say they suddenly hit some form, new manager, new way of playing, new bit of belief, bit of confidence in the team, and all of a sudden the players that they've got there suddenly find a way of playing it and it works. So it is absolutely not to be underestimated. You should never take a game at face value based on league position because you have to have a look under the bonnet, see what's happening. So, like I say, it will be a tough night. The bit I like about it is I think Shrewsbury's a decent-sized pitch and it should be a decent... I've not seen any footage of their pitch, but I believe it might be a decent surface for Notts to play a bit of football on. And I think a decent-sized pitch might help us. But, look, it's the same for both teams, and Shrewsbury will do whatever they can for their own advantage. So tough game, really tough game again. But this is the challenge of Football League football. You've got to go again 3 or 4 days after you've done it before and given their all. And so I thought it was a really good performance at Bromley. I thought it was a really good performance. But you've got to back it up. It's no good, putting in a good performance, getting a point, and then letting yourselves down away in the next game and the next game, or whatever it might be. Say every game is worth 3 points, 3 points on the line, and that's it. So by hook or by crook, get the job done.
Ant Pie says it's not the time to be playing our youth players. We need to continue Pato's ruthless squad selection approach. Michael Fletcher says not seem tougher to beat now. A lot of that, or all of that credit should go down to Patterson and his coaching staff. Indeed, I'm sure we all agree on that. I'm not quite sure where this one is coming from. Greza Maxwell seems to be collecting parrots. I collect stuffed magpies. Look, here's one of them. There you go. Look, stuffed magpie. Look, there it is. tail's a bit floppy at the minute, but never mind. According to this, Greza Maxwell has got 1 macaw, 2 African greys, and a cockatoo. My house is like Twycross Zoo's aviary section. I've no idea how we've got onto this subject, Greza. But anyway. But they squawk a bit, don't they? Ready hell. Yeah. Anyway, now you know. Greza has 1, 2, 3, 4 rare parrots in his household. Stephen Andrew says, I remember Stell playing for Shrewsbury against Notts. I think we got a 1-1 draw. Our French defender, I want to say Julien Baudet, I don't know.
Yeah,
missed
probably.
penalty. Right, and it's going downhill now about names of parrots, which I don't propose to read out. Robert Minister, Martin Patterson, really has the lads believing and has them buying in. It's a cliche, 1 game at a time. Yeah, I do like the and I don't ever really tire of it, Stell. He doesn't deviate, does he? You know, as much as Adam tries to tease other things out of him and get him talking generally and colloquially and expanding, there's kind of, you know, in horse racing terms, blinkers over the eye, so the horse just down the track. Very much like that, I noticed with all his interviews. Don't matter whether he won 6 on the trot, lost 5-0. Next game. Next game's a tough game, and that focus, I think, serves as well, and I think will continue to serve as well. We as fans, and he makes the point, we all can get carried away, can't we? We lose 2-0, woe is us, needs to do this, change that, whatever. Win 5 on the trot, we're going to win the title. You know, neither are true. You know, there's an awful lot still to be done. So I do like the way, you know, he's keeping a lid on everything, isn't he? He's keeping a lid on everything.
Yeah, absolutely. He's done it all season, and look, he's a man. I believe I've not really spoken to him, you know, throughout the season, seen him, you know, passing and what have you. But you know, he's a man of strong belief. I think he's got, you know, the way he wants to do things. And people always say about this, you know, this cliche from all throughout time about football. It's all about the next game. But it is absolutely true. When you're inside a dressing room, inside a club, that is all you're told to focus on, all you're allowed to focus on, all that's expected to be focused on. The minute you start taking your eye off it, because the next game is the only one that you can affect. You can't affect what's happening in 3 games' time or 5 games' time or next week or whatever. It's the next game is the only one that you can work towards, train towards, work towards. And when that one's gone, straight on to the next. And that's why I say a football league season is relentless, absolutely relentless, because there's always something to focus on, and it's the next game. Like I say, on the outside, like I say, I can sit here and talk about runs of 3 or 4 games, 5 games, tough games, home games, away, whatever it might be, because I've not got to prepare for any of the games. You know, I'm not playing. I can't do anything for it. None of us can do anything other than support the team, you know, to actually, sort of help the game or you know, have their input in the game. So, you know, the players can, and they've got to remain, you've got to have the focus, because again, you've got a group of players, the opposition, who are going to be laser focused on upsetting you and winning the game themselves. So it's, like I say, in its broadest terms, football is gladiatorial. You know, it is 1 against 1, 11 against 11, but 1 against 1, one team against another team, and one is going to come out winners. Obviously, unless there's a draw, of course, but you know, that's what it is. You're there to upset the opponents and be better than the opponents. Doesn't matter who your opponents are in 2 weeks' time or in 10 days' time, or we've got a Glamour Cup tie in a week's time. We're looking at that and things like that. That's the minute you take your eye off what's in front of you is when the game will respond, will bite back, and it will pull the rug from under your feet. And that is why sometimes, not always, but sometimes, we get Notts this season on a run of 6 wins on the spin, 7 games undefeated, yet you go back to the turn of the year, 4 games without a win. and you're not talking, months and months ago with different players. You're talking just a few games ago, a handful of games ago. How is it? It's because each game is so competitive. And if something's not right, and fine margins, as we know by all these games we've won by the odd goal, there are fine margins that decide games. And both managers have had the say on the fine margins that affected Saturday's game. But it's so tight. Yes, we'd all love to win every game 3 and 4-0. And if everything comes together, then Notts have got the ability to do that. But more often than not, you have to grind and scrap and grit and be fully focused on what's in front of you. Because as we all know, doing anything in life, if you're not really focused on it, if you're not really concentrating on it, if you've got your eye on something else, then you don't do everything, do what you're doing at the best. So, that's what they've got to do. And I think, again, all credit to Martin. He's managed the ship. He's steered the ship, which is what you want your head coach to do. He's laid his beliefs down, made them obvious, shown his demands for players, been consistent with it throughout the season, been consistent with things like, team selection. If you get in and you play well, you stay in. I don't think he's veered too much from that path all season. And I think that sets out a really clear message to the players that they know what's expected, and then they have to step up and deliver. And if they don't, there's somebody waiting behind, pushing them all the way, who will be ready. And then you might find yourself on the outside looking in of the team. So, look, it's a real difficult thing to do, to manage a squad of players and try and keep everybody happy and keep everybody focused. Because some people are unhappy at not starting, some people are delighted to be starting, and you've got everything in between. But it takes really, really good leadership to harness all that and get it pulling in the same direction as they are at the minute.
Some debate about tickets. Carl Brandon, you will definitely be able to get tickets on the night. Do not worry. Greza Maxwell, Fergie never dwelled on a trophy win the next day. He was in his office planning for the next match. Robert Minister, just a quick note for Stell. I have my wife watching the replay on Pies Player. I always watch live, and she loves you for the get in. So many more of that, please. The more, the better. Excellent show as always. Thank you. Rosemary Mans, she's going to be watching Coventry Middlesbrough, top of the table championship clash. Been to Cov a few times with my grandson Jake, but Pies are most in my mind. What a league we're in currently. If we go up, we could be playing Leicester. Well, obviously I was there many years, not so sure about that. I think you'll find Gary Rowett is about to imminently become their next manager. Could make a mind, Gary. I'll be surprised if he doesn't keep them up, although they've been having a pretty rough time of it. 3-0 up against Southampton at half-time, lose 4-3. Oh, dear me. If ever a game gets somebody restless as a fan, that is a game that did it. Well, anyway, but we are much more bothered about Notts County. Stell, so you will be there tomorrow, will you? You missed the first one against Shrewsbury, but you're turning up for this one.
I don't need to recharge my batteries just yet. Not again. No, I'll be there.
Yeah, me and Aaron. 3 weeks ago.
Absolutely, that's it. So I'm refreshed. Well, I say I'm refreshed. I'm as refreshed as I get at my age nowadays. But yeah, we'll be there. And like I say, again, as ever, looking forward to it. 15 games to go now. This is where it starts really. Every game, there'll be a twist and a turn, and we'll be looking for other results. And, again, we'll soon be thinking about Saturday after the game straight away. They'll be on to Tranmere at home. So by the time we're back on next week, we could be hopefully 6 points better off.
I tell you what, though, Stell, I am so pleased, as I'm sure are all Notts fans, that we had a transfer window this year for the first time, really, where players that were signed have made instant impacts. I'm not sure we might be where we are right now if we not signed those players. Belshaw, clearly. Harold looks like he's going to get game time increasingly. We've seen a few cameos from Leon Love, and of course, with Jatta, not in the building at the minute. If you'd not signed an Unlove, we would have. Matty Dennis centre forward picks himself. We wouldn't have another one.
Yeah, absolutely. But again, I will carry it. James Belshaw, obviously, I think he's a great addition. Leon Love as well. But you're right, cameos. He's come on. We'll not get ahead of ourselves. They've not achieved anything yet. It could turn the other way if we drop off a cliff. Then we're all all of a sudden going, Luke Brown we've not seen, and Oru we've seen for 20 minutes and then disappeared. Tangan we've seen cameos of. So promising at the minute, but again, let's just reserve judgment. Let's use the evidence of our eyes. What we've seen so far looks promising, but we'll not get too carried away. Like I say, they might have bigger parts to play than they have done already, and then that's when the proof is in the pudding, isn't it? What sort of performances can we get for 90 minutes from these players if they're required?
Jurgen Pye is watching Macclesfield versus Brentford as we speak. Gazali says Belshaw has been immense. Before we finish, though, we should just have a word because obviously we've not had a chance to speak to you on air since. What did you make of the James O'Brien night?
Yeah, don't call him Jimmy. Apparently, Jimmy's at the wheel, but he doesn't like Jimmy. He said. Look, I'm sure plenty of people that are listening and watching this were there on Thursday night, and they will agree with me at how impressive he was, speaking some really good stories, some good insight, spoke with a bit of passion, with a lot of knowledge, and made no bones about it, did he, that he wanted to come back and manage the club at some point in the future. So you wouldn't, after hearing him speak and knowing what he's done and seeing what people think about him, the Notts fans, you wouldn't back against that in the future, would you? Like I said to people on the night, though, it might not happen for a while if Martin Patterson takes us straight into the Premier League in the next 3 or 4 seasons.
Indeed. We've done the hour. We've hit the hour mark. So that'll do for tonight. We're all off to Shrewsbury tomorrow. I look forward to seeing everyone in the away end behind the goal. I seem to remember when I was last there, absolutely threw it down. Cats and dogs. Chucked it down. Was it the League Cup when we got knocked out after extra time?
Second game of the season, wasn't it? Last season.
We were 2 up, somehow lost it, didn't we?
Was it 3-3 and then lost on penalties?
Yeah.
I think we were 2 up. Yeah, 2 up, drew 3-3. Didn't we get a late equaliser in normal time to make it 3-3? 2 up, 3-2 down, and then 3 up. I think. I mean, we know how bad my memory is, but that is a game that does stick out. And then we got beat on penalties, obviously. To end another cup run or lack of it.
Coming on the show, says Gazali, can you get Grezza on with his parrots? Indeed. Right. We're all going to do whatever we do tonight, early to bed. I don't know about the players. I feel shattered half the time with all these podcasts and Bromley away now, Shrewsbury. But at least we've got a couple of home games coming up after this. So thank you to our official partners, JH Accountants, the Big Shed, Trent Navigation and Over the Road. Thank you to all the flock for your for all your comments this evening. Stel, thank you as always.
Pleasure as ever. Hope everyone has a good week. Safe travels if you're going to the game. And here's hoping for a good week by the time we're back here next Monday.
Indeed. All the very best. Look forward to seeing you all on Tuesday night in Shrewsbury.